God, to watch. And then when I was a kid, though, it's funny. I'm older now. You'd think I'd be more resigned to watching things play out. I can watch 2 innings.
But you talk about the youth being so action oriented and things happen fast. You know, we're guilty of it too. I mean, you have a few years on me, but we also fall into that camp as well. And baseball, to me, I played more baseball of sports, and I played a lot of sports. I played more baseball probably than any other sport. I'm not even interested in my son necessarily playing baseball because I'd rather coach him at some of these more action-packed.
Yeah, you know, something that's funny because you're sitting there going, watching the...
I've developed and evolved. So it's not just younger people that want more action. You know, even you and I maybe.
Oh, no, I agree with 100%. No, that's what I just got through saying. It's like, I can watch a couple of innings, and it's kind of fun, a couple of it. But when I was a kid, 12 years old, they had NBC, they had something, the Saturday game, I forgot what it was called. And I would watch a whole game with my friend, friends, whatever, his brother, whatever. And I was actually anxious to see what, I don't think kids would, there's no way a kid is watching 9 innings of Major League Baseball.
But the Major League Baseball has done a couple things in my mind that actually have helped create the environment where kids maybe aren't as interested in baseball. And some of the stuff, like baseball is a slower, more cerebral sport than some of these other action-packed sports. There's no way around that. But, you know, the playoff games are always late at night. You know, my son at 7, 8, now he's 7, but 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, he's not going to watch the Yankees and Red Sox when they first pitch is at 8:35.
Chris, you are absolutely right. It's penny wise, dollar foolish. Again, ancient history. When I was in 6th grade, we had like crayon boxes, and everyone put their transistor, and they watch because the Orioles and the Pirates or whatever was playing at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, you'd have to be foolish to think you're going to do that, but break it up a little, half and half.
Absolutely. So even setting aside the cost of going to a game is astronomical. So a lot of fathers can't necessarily take their sons and daughters to Yankee Stadium or Fenway or whatever because of cost. You can't even necessarily watch a lot of the games with your son or daughter because they start so late. So the prices have gone through the roof. So that's driven a lot of people out. And then they don't televise, especially the big games. You know, they're all late at night, which...
Well, I agree. It's also very interesting because for NFL football, which is funny, get a little cerebral for a second, football was designed for TV.
Yes.
Baseball is better live and less engaging on TV. Football's the opposite. You watch a football game like in the stadium...
Football's better in TV.
It ain't all that interesting.
No,
it looks,
absolutely.
Do you know what it is? It's a superhuman element. When you look on TV, it looks superhuman. The pass and the guys, when you see it live, it's like, all right, it's something like I could do do that on, you know, it's
once
not
you
that
take
big.
out the crowd charisma part of being in the stadium and that
Just
excitement level.
A little 2-yard run, but you see it on TV, it's, you know, shooken and jived, it looks amazing.
Absolutely.
You see it on live, it's like, okay, great.
And one thing I want to touch on is the NHL, because you talk about the coolness factor. To me, the NHL, which is, you know, way behind the other sports, does still have the cool factor. I watched a lot of the playoffs this past season.
I think the NHL, I agree with you, if they weren't so dumb, because they're the dumbest of the
because they're the worst business people of the group, but they have such a great product.
Again, being older than you is, I remember like, and you can still realize this, in the 90s, it was like kicking up.
Yeah.
And what do? They strike.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, it plummets for 3 years.
Absolutely.
Because people do get PO'd. When you, you know, people are struggling, and they've struggled for 20, 30 years now in this country. And it does bother you when you're making 70 grand a year, you got 2 kids, blah, blah, blah. And you got some idiot who strikes making $2 million.
Right.
That's bizarre.
I think that they have a nice combination where they still
NHL
have that. Yeah, they still have that warrior ethos, like that old time.
Yes.
You know, that warrior ethos, but it's not the warrior ethos like an MMA fighter, which people can't necessarily relate to. But you know, these guys, they get hit in the face with a puck. They go on. They get stitched up on the bench. They don't even miss a shift.
Oh no, NHL. I'd love to be the marketing, I'd love to be involved in a marketing element for the NHL. because I think if they don't shoot themselves in the foot, the upside potential of the NHL is amazing because baseball, okay, we were talking about that, I think it's got some real issues. And let me just articulate it. We've already kind of gone over it. The slowness of the game.
Yes.
Big issue even for someone my age. Is like, God, I'm going to go to sleep, okay? If there's no beer, forget about it. It's never going to happen. Could you imagine getting a Diet Coke and a hot dog and watching 9 innings? It would the attendance would be down to 5,000, okay? The other problem is an NFL game I could go to and spend $200. It's one time a week. They only play 16 games. They're going to screw that up too. They're going to play 18. But let's say it's 16 games. I can deal with that. They play 162 games. I'm going to spend the same amount for an NFL game. 200, around. Who cares? 200, 300. Who cares at that point? Right. You're going to spend $200 for a game that really means nothing. An NFL game does mean something. Oh yeah, you have to be nuts.
In the NFL, you have a 3-game losing streak. I mean,
You're
that's
done.
a catastrophe. I mean, that's
You're
serious
done.
jeopardy to your season. You talk about the coach getting fired, the quarterback change, the whole thing. You lose 3 games in baseball out of 100. What do they play? 162 games.
And I also
inconsequential.
think it's lost a little bit of its allure, and it was going to happen anyway with free agency. But like the All-Star game, they should probably just stop it. It means when I was a kid, the All-Star game, you might have been on the tail end, Chris, was huge. And then it lost. I think.
Why was it huge?
Because it was a National League against the American League. They hated each other. It was a whole big controversy. Which league was better in the 70s? The National League was better. But with free agent and now interleague play, why even have it?
But some of it is the technology and the exposure, because I think I agree with what you're saying, but I think part of the lure of the All-Star game is you would see the great players that you didn't get to see.
Yes.
And you get to see them on one field on one special night. Now, if you like a particular player in a particular team, even if it's like the San Francisco Giants and you live in New York, you could see them anytime you want. The specialness is gone.
You know, something
never recapture that.
Point well taken. You had, again, it's 25, 30 years past its prime, but you would have, I don't know, some player from San Francisco you'd never see, and it was a big. Okay, why fight? I guess you would have it. It doesn't hurt, okay? But it's not what it was.
The home run derby is almost more popular than
I would have that
than the All-Star game itself. The NFL's done away with I think they did away with the All-Pro game.
I think he still has it.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's after the Super Bowl, so no one gets hurt.
Oh, okay.
And it's a corporate party. My friend is involved in corporate events. It's in Hawaii. They might have changed that. No one cares. It's a way you're going to go to Hawaii. And literally, if any idiot put a hurting on someone, that wouldn't be pretty. In other words, everyone knows it's just an exhibition. No one really cares. That's different. They probably should get rid of
So what came out of today's show is that the Boston Bruins should contact you about marketing.
Yes.
You think you could take the NHL to the next level? No.
You're missing, Chris. Not true. I think I could, but I'd like to be part of that bandwagon because I think that's going to be. But if they don't shoot themselves in the foot,
I agree.
A potential. Now, one thing the NHL should do, blasphemy, lose the southern teams, even if for TV, you'd be better off.
Oh, I thought you were going to say lose the fighting at first.
No, not at all. I would say for a TV event, people would still tune in. If it was like the Blackhawks and Bruins, probably had a huge viewership, meaning no one cares about the Atlanta Flames. They barely. The problem with the NHL is a lot of those teams are not doing well because there's no inclination if you're in Florida to be hockey. It makes no sense.
They have like the
just roll with what you have.
Phoenix Coyotes, like Phoenix.
It's a joke.
Yes. But
with global warming,
Minneapolis doesn't. Well, Minnesota, they do have a team.
Yes, they do.
They didn't have it for a number of years.
They went away and then they came back. Yeah, Minnesota's great, but NHL has got a real. I think it could. Could it happen? I think NBA just because the international aspect of it will always be popular. I have no interest in the NBA. I think it is the god-awful,
I agree.
worst sport, a bunch of friggin' criminals running up and down the field. But I'm just kidding, but it's like a horrible game. All they do is run, dunk.
I don't get
and
it.
the last 5 minutes, I went to a game 20 years ago, and I remember it was like the worst game. It means nothing until the last 5 minutes. It's awful.
But you feel the same way with college? Because
No.
I
Love college basketball.
NBA, I don't even know players, coaches, teams. And it's always been. I've never been interested in it. But I do think it's kind of a silly sport with the walking, and it just seems it's more Harlem Globetrotters than anything.
Exactly. And the whole game of basketball started 100 years ago. They had the net with 11 feet. That's when people were 6'2", and they were a huge giant. You're 10 feet tall, whatever, and you're just dunking it. You're like, the game is a joke.
But I like the college.
College is great.
And I will say that I especially have grown, and maybe this is because in Connecticut we have such a special program, watching women's college basketball.
Oh, that's how basketball used to be.
Because it's such a team sport.
That's what it was.
And the pick and rolls and the creativity that they have to do, because they can't just...
Yeah, but the NBA, all they do is you throw it in, you got some 280-pound thug going, woo! And then the next one, woo! And then the last 5 minutes of the game means something. The rest means absolutely nothing.
That is more interesting.
So maybe NHL, could it be a shakeout where Major League Baseball, just by default, there is nostalgia, is still second, but a weak second. Could it be the NHL kind of, because it is something, even though they do get paid a lot, but they still don't get paid what the others do. It's a blue collar. It's like kind of action-packed.
Yes, and they play the game, especially in the playoffs. They play the game with that raw intensity that seems very lacking in baseball to me and to a lot of people. Not running out the ball and just more, even the game itself has become corporate on the field,
Yes. But the other thing about baseball, because it is a cerebral game, long time ago, like 1986, when I went to the Mets Cubs, and when they were vying for who's going to be in first, whatever. And I really had a problem with the dun 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 dun, it's baseball. It's you should have the organ guy and maybe have some. Had the highlights. I have no problem with that. But not every second. Amazing. It's baseball. It's ridiculous.
I don't think hockey could ever become as popular as some of the other ones, because is still going to have too many Americans don't skate, didn't play hockey,
but could appreciate it as an entertainment.
But I think they could appreciate it, and I think it could certainly improve greatly from where it is and eat into the leagues that are ahead of them. And I think that going way out, you could see lacrosse become increasingly popular, because, at least anecdotally,
I think
younger
lacrosse
ages, kids are being attracted, men and women being attracted.
And something, we only have a couple minutes,
crazy.
Chris. I believe corporate entities, because they're all so corporatized. One thing I know is a state of nature right now. Just because something is what it is now doesn't mean, especially nowadays, in 5 years, it could completely change. A sport like lacrosse could twist everything, because I think I'm not the only one, and we got to go, that's not a little disenchanted with $26 million a year and being some dupe sitting there going, go, spending $300. It's crazy. But great show today, as always, and thank all of you for tuning in to another edition of the Business Buzz. Chris and I will be back next week with another exciting show addressing the issues that are hopefully important to you. Thanks for tuning in. We will be back next week. Hasta luego, baby.